Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. The acrid stench of scorched circuitry burned Ethan Caldwell's nostrils, yanking him from the black void of unconsciousness. His head throbbed like he'd gone 10 rounds with a Centauri boxer, each imagined punch leaving a dull ache radiating through his skull. He cracked his eyes open, but his vision was a blur, catching only faint flickers of light from the shattered control panels of the Aurora's blade. The scout ship, once his pride and joy, was now a mangled heap of metal, groaning as if ready to collapse. Through the cracked viewport, the violet sky of an alien world churned with storm clouds, lightning slashing like knives across the horizon. Jagged, obsidian peaks loomed in the distance, teeth of some colossal beast waiting to snap shut. "Son of a bitch!" Ethan muttered, voice hoarse, fumbling with the safety harness pinning him to the pilot's seat. A sharp pain lanced through his ribs, making him grimace, but he gritted his teeth. Marines didn't whine. He clawed at his memories, but they came in fragments, searing plasma bolts from Elythar warships, panicked shouts over the comms as Outpost 7 fell, and the moment he'd banked the Aurora's blade to shield a civilian transport during the chaotic evacuation. He'd taken a hit, alarms screaming, and managed to shove the transport into a safe orbit before darkness swallowed him. Now here he was, stranded on some godforsaken planet, no clue which corner of the Orion Arm this was. "Still breathing, Caldwell," he told himself, but the voice in his head offered no comfort. A quick check, his pistol was still holstered, survival pack intact, though torn at one corner. Good. If this was Elythar territory, he'd need every damn thing he had. Ethan shoved the cockpit hatch open, metal screeching in protest. He stepped out, heavy boots sinking into gray ash, each step kicking up clouds of dust. Kharos' air was thick, reeking of metal and sulfur, like the planet was simmering in its own core. Around him, the wreckage of the Aurora's blade lay scattered, engine fragments, hull shards glinting under the weak purple light. He squinted, trying to get his bearings. No NAP signal, no map. Just an eerie silence, broken by a faint hum in the distance. He spun, hands snapping to his pistol. At the edge of the crash site, a tall figure stood bathed in the storm's dim glow. It was insectoid, segmented body gleaming like polished steel, for slender limbs moving with eerie grace. Its upper limbs clutched a slim device pulsing with pale blue light. Glowing green eyes burned and blinking, twin flames piercing through him. Ethan raised his pistol, combat instincts flaring. "Friend or foe?" he shouted, voice rough but steady. Wind howled, carrying ash, whipping his brown hair into chaos. The creature tilted its head, a slow, almost curious motion. A translator unit on its chest crackled, then emitted a low, halting voice. "I am Vin, of the Elythar Collective. You saved my ship. I owe you a debt." Ethan blinked, fingers easing off the trigger, though he didn't lower the weapon. Elythar. He'd heard of them, hyper-intelligent, cold as ice, known for their vast knowledge archives. But what was one doing here, on this hellhole of a planet? "No big deal," he said, voice dry. "Where the hell are we?" Vin's eyes dimmed, a gesture Ethan couldn't read but felt like unease. "This is Kharos," it replied, voice lower. "A forbidden world. The Elythar hunt here, for sport, and for secrets." Ethan's jaw tightened. Elythar, the reptilian juggernauts, humanity's main enemy in a decades-long galactic war. If this was their playground, he was in deep shit. "What secrets?" he asked, but before Vin could answer, a piercing screech tore through the air. Ethan whipped around, heart pounding. On the horizon, 3 red lights appeared, moving fast, engines roaring. Elythar drones, ruthless killing machines armed with heat sensors and plasma cannons. Vin froze, its limbs contracting like it was ready to bolt. "They've found us," it whispered, eyes blazing. "We must run." Ethan gripped his pistol, eyes cold. Run? Not his style. But he wasn't stupid. Taking on 3 drones with a pistol and a handful of rounds was suicide. He glanced at Vin, noticing how it clutched the glowing device. Something about that thing was worth the Elythar's wrath. "Lead the way," he said, voice hard. I'll make him regret chasing us. Vin nodded and sprinted, for legs blurring across the ash. Ethan followed, boots pounding, each step sending jolts of pain through his body. The Kharos jungle loomed ahead, twisted trees draped in glowing vines, leaves sharp as razors. The drone's engines grew louder, red lights sweeping, illuminating swirling ash. Ethan vaulted over a massive root, breath burning in his chest. A plasma bolt grazed past, igniting the ground beside him. Faster! He yelled, shoving Vin into the jungle. Branches lashed his face, leaving stinging cuts. Vin glided through with uncanny grace, like it belonged here. Ethan, on the other hand, crashed through, his bulky human frame ill-suited for this nightmare terrain. An explosion roared behind, a drone's shot toppled a tree, flames erupting. Ethan glanced back, seeing the red glow of sensors locking on. He skidded to a stop, panting, and took aim. Come on, you bastard! He muttered. A shot nailed the nearest drone's sensor, sending it spiraling into a tree. But the other two kept coming, relentless. Vin looked back, eyes blazing. You can't fight them head-on! It shouted. Ethan gritted his teeth. It was right, but running didn't mean giving up. He holstered his pistol, grabbed Vin's arm. Find cover. Now! They plunged deeper into the jungle, darkness swallowing them, but the drone's hum clung like a curse. Ethan caught Vin's glance, not fear, but a strange resolve, as if it knew something he didn't. Kharos wasn't just a planet. It was a mystery, and Ethan Caldwell had just stumbled into its heart. The Kharos jungle was a living nightmare, a labyrinth of shadow and sickly light. Glowing vines, green and pale purple, coiled around warped trees like giant serpents, pulsing with each crash of Ethan and Vin through the undergrowth. Razor-sharp leaves glinted under the stormlit sky, whispering sounds no plant should make. Every step was a battle. Ethan's heavy boots tore through brambles, branches whipping his face, leaving raw, stinging welts. His breath seared his lungs, sweat stung his eyes, but he didn't slow. Behind them, the whine of Elythar drone engines grew closer, mixed with low, guttural growls, as if the planet itself was hunting them. Then moved with an eerie grace, almost unreal. Its four legs skimmed the treacherous terrain like it was born for this hell, its chitin shell shimmering under the vine's glow. Ethan shot at a glance, grudgingly impressed, though the situation gave him no time to dwell. This thing, Elythar Archivist, whatever it called itself, clutched a small device, the signal core, its light flickering faster, like a panicked heartbeat. That thing was why they were being hunted, and Ethan knew, if the Elythar wanted it, it was worth risking his neck for. Why are they after you? Ethan gasped, ducking a glowing vine that reached for his throat like a predator. A shallow cut on his cheek oozed blood, but he didn't bother wiping it. Then glanced back, green eyes blazing, its voice calm but urgent through the translator. This is the signal core. It holds data that could expose the Elythar's plan to topple the Galactic Alliance. I must deliver it to the Earth Alliance. Ethan's jaw clenched, pulse spiking. The Galactic Alliance, a fragile coalition where humans were barely tolerated, always underestimated. If the Elythar, with their reptilian armies and war fleets, were plotting a coup, the Alliance needed to know. Not just to save the Alliance, but to prove humanity wasn't some weak upstart in the galaxy. Keep running, he said, voice steely. Through the dust and darkness, he spotted a ravine ahead, sloping down to a network of dark caves. There's a cave down there. We can lose em. Then hesitated, its limbs pausing for a split second, eyes flickering as if weighing something profound. You risk your life for a cause not your own, it said, voice low, almost challenging. Why? Ethan flashed a feral grin, adrenaline sharpening everything, the jungle's sounds, the drone's hum, even his own heartbeat. Because I'm human, and we don't let bastards like the Elythar win. Now move, Archivist, or I'll drag you. They plunged down the ravine, rocks sliding underfoot. Ethan skidded, grabbing a root to steady himself, while Vin leapt with effortless precision, barely touching the ground. The cave's mouth loomed ahead, a pitch-black maw promising temporary shelter. They dove inside, darkness swallowing them, just as the drone's red lights swept overhead, illuminating the cliff face. Ethan pressed against the cave wall, panting, hands still gripping his pistol. "Made it," he muttered, but the words barely left his mouth before a blast echoed. The ground shook, and a blinding white flash erupted from the brush near the cave's entrance. A proximity mine, hidden in the roots, detonated, hurling Ethan to the ground, ears ringing, vision blurred with dust. Blood trickled from a gash on his forehead, but he clenched his jaw, crawling to his feet. Then, quick as lightning, dragged him deeper into the cave, its limbs stronger than their slender appearance suggested. "They've rigged traps across this area," it said, voice urgent through the translator. "They know we're here." Ethan spat blood, eyes blazing. His head spun, but the pain only sharpened his focus. "Traps, huh?" he growled, a mix of anger and pride in his voice. "Then we'll give them a surprise." He checked his pistol, half a magazine left. Not enough for a straight fight with Elythar, but enough to make them pay. He glanced at Vin, catching its curious stare, not fear, not doubt, but a deep intrigue, like he was a puzzle it couldn't solve. "Got a plan?" Vin asked, clutching the signal core tighter. Ethan smirked, the half-grin of a marine staring down death. "Elythar like to hunt, right? I'll give them a prey they'll choke on." He rummaged through his pack, pulling out an EMP grenade, his last ace. "This can scramble the drones, but only for a few minutes." "You know a way through this jungle?" Vin nodded, eyes glowing. "I studied Kharos maps before my ship crashed. There's a river half a mile from here. Its current could mask our heat signatures." Ethan nodded, pressing the grenade into its hand. "Good. When I signal, toss this. Then run like hell." Vin tilted its head, as if unaccustomed to his phrasing, but it didn't argue. They retreated deeper into the cave, finding a shadowed nook beyond the entrance's light. The drone's hum lingered outside, slower now, like they were scanning the area. Ethan forced himself to stay calm, listening to every sound, the wind's hiss, distant Elythar growls, his own heartbeat. He glanced at Vin, watching it adjust the signal core, its light casting shadows on its chitin face. "How important is that thing?" he asked, voice low. Vin paused, eyes meeting his. "It's the key to stopping a galactic war," it said. "If the Elythar succeed, the Alliance will fall, and your Earth will be their first target." Ethan's brow furrowed, a chill running down his spine. Earth, his home, the one he'd sworn to protect, no matter the cost. "Then we don't fail," he said, voice like iron. A guttural growl echoed near the entrance. Ethan signaled Vin, hand tightening on his pistol. A massive shadow appeared, a Elythar warrior, black scales glinting, plasma rifle glowing. Ethan flashed a cold smile. "Now, Vin!" He lunged out, firing rapidly, while Vin hurled the EMP grenade. A blue flash erupted, and the drone's engines went haywire. They sprinted from the cave back into the demon jungle, Elythar hot on their heels. Kharos hadn't let them go, but Ethan Caldwell wasn't the type to go down easy. In the damp darkness of the Kharos cave, Ethan pressed his back against the cold stone, his ragged breath slowing. The screech of Elythar drones still echoed outside, but fainter, as if they'd lost their prey. He wiped sweat-mixed blood from his forehead, wincing at the sting of a gash on his cheek, and glanced at Vin. The archivist stood motionless, limbs retracted, green eyes scanning the cave's entrance like a calculating warrior. "They haven't given up," Vin whispered through its translator, voice low but sharp. Ethan flashed his signature half-grin. "Good. Neither have I." He checked his pistol, counting rounds, too damn few. But this cave, with its glimmering crystal stalactites, was their chance to turn the tables. He nodded to Vin, gesturing deeper inside. "Find a spot to hunker down. We need that signal core working, and fast." The Kharos cave was a maze of shadow and eerie light, where crystal stalactites shimmered like imprisoned stars. They hummed with faint energy, emitting a low buzz, as if the planet itself whispered ancient secrets. The crystal's glow danced on the stone walls, casting grotesque shadows that flickered like spectral fiends. Ethan crouched behind a massive boulder, breath still ragged from their jungle escape. Sweat dripped down his face, mingling with dust and blood from his cheek. He glanced at Vin, the Elythar hunched over the signal core, its slender limbs moving with surgical precision, like an artist crafting a masterpiece. The small device, pulsing with pale blue light, was the heart of their troubles, and Ethan felt its weight, even if he didn't fully understand it. This device, Vin said, voice low through the translator, can transmit a signal across light years, linking to Galactic Alliance relays. But it needs more power than we have. Ethan frowned, digging through his battered survival pack. His fingers brushed something cold, metallic, the fusion cell from the Aurora's blade, cracked but still alive. He pulled it out, holding it up to the crystal light. "Will this do?" he asked, voice tinged with doubt but brimming with confidence. Vin's eyes widened, green pupils flaring, a rare glimpse of emotion. "Your ingenuity," it paused, searching for words, "is remarkable." Ethan smirked, the Marine's half-grin. "Call me a problem solver." He handed the cell to Vin, and they set to work, Ethan steadying the cell while Vin meticulously wired the signal core. Vin's chitin fingers moved so fast they blurred, but Ethan sensed a quiet intensity in its motions, a purpose as fierce as his own stubborn resolve. In the cave's dim glow, Ethan studied Vin. Elythar were known for being cold, logical to a fault, but Vin was different. There was a fire beneath its chitin shell, a determination he'd only seen in seasoned warriors. "You're not just a scientist, are you?" he asked, voice low, probing yet curious. Vin froze, limbs still, as if his question had struck an old wound. "I am an archivist," it said slowly, "trained to preserve the galaxy's knowledge, and fight for it if necessary." Ethan raised an eyebrow, about to press further, but Vin stiffened, eyes flickering wildly, as if yanked by an unseen alarm. "Something's in the cave," Vin whispered, voice trembling, a rare crack in its composure. "Not Clythar." Ethan spun, pistol in hand, finger ready on the trigger. His eyes scanned the darkness, heart pounding. The cave was deathly quiet, save for the crystal's hum and his own shallow breaths. Then he heard it, a soft tap, like claws scraping stone, growing closer, sharper. From the shadows, a creature emerged, the size of a car, spider-like but warped, unnatural. Its barbed legs clicked on the floor, a deadly rhythm. Red eyes, like burning coals, fixed on the signal core in Vin's hands, drawn to it like a predator to blood. "Kharos isn't just a hunting ground," Vin whispered, voice shaky but clinging to an archivist's calm. "It's an ancient Clythar laboratory. These creatures, they're their creations." Ethan swallowed hard, sweat beading on his neck. He'd faced Clythar, survived impossible battles, but this bioengineered monstrosity, was a whole new beast. He raised his pistol, firing a burst, the shots echoing in the cave. Bullets struck the creature's shell, forcing it back, but didn't pierce. It roared, a piercing screech that made the ceiling crystals quiver. "Run!" Ethan yelled, grabbing Vin's arm, dragging it deeper into the cave. They slid through narrow passages, sharp stalactites grazing their shoulders, leaving painful welts. The spider's tapping pursued, relentless, like it knew no fatigue. Ethan glanced back, seeing those red eyes glowing closer than he'd hoped. "It's not giving up," he growled, shoving Vin through a tight crevice. He spun, firing again, but the creature only slowed, undeterred. They burst into a larger chamber, where crystals formed a strange circle, like an ancient shrine. Ethan leaned against the stalactite, panting, heart hammering. Vin clutched the signal core, its light now pulsing frantically, as if reacting to the cave itself. It's activating something," Vin said, voice laced with panic. Before Ethan could ask, a high-pitched wail erupted from the core, so sharp he clapped his hands over his ears. The ceiling crystals flared, white light sweeping through, illuminating every corner. A lattice of crystal lights pulsed, forming intricate patterns on the walls. A cold, mechanical voice echoed in an alien tongue, mixed with growls and hisses. Ethan turned to Vin, seeing its chitin face pale, eyes wide with horror. It triggered an ancient protocol," Vin whispered, voice trembling. We're not just being hunted. We've awakened something bigger. Ethan gripped his pistol, eyes cold. Bigger how? He growled, but before Vin could answer, the floor shuddered. A crack split the ground, red light erupting from below, accompanied by the grind of metal on metal. The spider creature vanished, but Ethan knew this new threat was worse. He looked at Vin, seeing resolve return to its eyes. Whatever it is, we face it, he said, voice like steel. But this time, Archivist, I need you fighting with me. Vin nodded, a hidden blade glinting in its limb. The Kharos cave had become a battlefield, and Ethan Caldwell had no intention of losing. A crimson glow erupted from the crack in the cave floor, like the forge of an enraged planet, bathing the crystal stalactites in a forest of gleaming blades. A metallic roar echoed, not from the spider creature, but from Kharos' very depths, as if the planet had just stirred awake. Ethan staggered back, pistol trained on the darkness, heart hammering. What the hell did you do, Vin? He roared, voice cutting through the screech of splitting stone. Vin, clutching the signal core, its green eyes flickering with panic. The protocol, it activated the defense system, it replied, voice trembling through the translator. Before Ethan could demand more, a mechanical blade surged from the floor, sharp as a reaper's scythe, grazing his shoulder. Laser beams shot from the rock walls, searing the air. The cave was no longer a refuge, it had become the enemy. The Kharos cave transformed into a deadly labyrinth, as if the planet itself had awakened to crush the intruders. Crystal walls shimmered and vibrated, emitting a low hum, then shifted with metallic screeches, forming new passages only to slam shut moments later. Pale blue light from the crystals swept through, illuminating crevices where lasers fired, razor-sharp and merciless. Mechanical blades, glinting like polished steel, erupted from the stone floor with lethal speed, forcing Ethan and Vin to sprint, each step a gamble with fate. Ethan vaulted over a blade, feeling its edge nick his boot, inches from severing his leg. What did the core do? He shouted, voice drowning out the trap's screech, as he dodged a laser that scorched the wall beside him. Vin, panting, clung to the signal core, its light pulsing frantically, like a heart in panic. It's a key, it said through the translator, urgent but retaining an archivist's calm. Not just for sending signals, but to unlock an ancient Elythar archive. They built Kharos to hide weapons, and we've just opened the door. Ethan shouted a glare, sweat streaming down his face, mixing with dust and blood from a fresh cut. Open the door? You make it sound like we invited the whole damn galaxy to this death party. They raced through a narrow passage, jagged walls pressing close like a beast's jaws. The roar of traps echoed behind, joined by the crunch of stone as a crystal wall collapsed, sealing their retreat. Ethan felt adrenaline pumping, but his body was tiring. The wound in his side from the crash throbbed with every move. They finally found a brief respite, ducking behind a towering crystal, its blue glow casting an otherworldly sheen. Ethan slumped down, checking his pistol. The magazine was nearly empty, a few rounds left. So we're not just running from hunters, he said, voice heavy. But a planet trying to kill us? Then nodded, green eyes blazing with unyielding resolve. But if we send the signal, the Alliance will know about this weapons cache. It could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. Ethan gave a dry laugh, humorless. You know, Vin? Elythar and humans have something in common. We're both stubborn as hell. Vin tilted its head, as if analyzing his words, then quivered its limbs, a gesture Ethan guessed was an Elythar chuckle. Perhaps that's why we're still alive, it said, a rare hint of humor in its voice. The moment of calm shattered as a deep roar shook the cave, strong enough to make the ceiling crystals tremble, dust raining down. Ethan sprang up, pistol aimed into the dark. They found us, he muttered, pulse racing. From the main passage, a massive figure emerged, black scales glinting like obsidian under the crystal light. A Elythar warrior, nearly 10 feet tall, with golden eyes like molten forges, wielded a plasma sword that glowed hot, warping the air around it. Behind him, 3 smaller but no less deadly Elythar, armed with plasma rifles. Hand over the signal core, human, the leader growled through a translator, voice like thunder. Or I'll skin you before I kill that insect. Ethan stood, pistol steady, eyes ice cold. Want it? Come and get it. He glanced at Vin, signaling with a nod. The fight erupted instantly, gunfire and plasma clashing in a symphony of death. Ethan fired rapidly, each shot aimed at weak points, knees, eyes, anything to slow the Elythar. Vin, with astonishing agility, slipped into the shadows, its hidden blade flashing, slicing through the scales of a smaller Elythar. Green blood sprayed, hissing as it hit the ground. They moved in sync, Ethan drawing fire, then striking from blind spots, a ghost in the cave. But the leader, the Black Knight, as he called himself, was a different beast. He moved with impossible speed for his size, his plasma sword cleaving a stalactite like butter. Ethan rolled to dodge a swing, feeling the blade's heat sear his skin. Vin, target his legs! He shouted, unloading rounds into the Elythar's knee. Then darted in, blade sinking into a joint, but the Black Knight only laughed, a chilling sound untouched by pain. His scales glowed an eerie red, as if powered by the cave itself. You think I'm just a hunter? He roared, voice drowning out the chaos. I am the Black Knight, forged to guard Kharos' secrets. He raised a hand, a device on his wrist flaring. The cave quaked violently, the floor splitting with bone-cracking snaps. Crimson light poured from the fissures, joined by the grind of metal. Ethan pulled Vin behind the crystal. From the floor, a colossal machine rose, its massive mechanical arms flailing, machine eyes blazing like furnaces. It stood dozens of feet tall, clad in metallic scales, a monster forged from the planet's core. Son of a bitch! Ethan muttered, heart pounding. What's that? Vin, eyes wide with horror, whispered. A sentinel, the Elythar's ultimate weapon. Ethan gripped his pistol, eyes locked on the machine. Fine. If Kharos wants to play big, I'll play along. He turned to Vin, voice like steel. Can you use the core to stop that thing? Vin nodded, though its eyes held unease. Possibly. But I need time. Ethan grinned, though the situation was anything but funny. Time? I'll give you a damn truckload. He leapt from cover, firing at the Black Knight, ready to face a planet to protect the core, and Vin. The Kharos cave shuddered like a wounded beast, the roar of metal and stone clashing drowning out even the pounding of Ethan Caldwell's heart. From the fissure in the floor, a colossal machine emerged, a metallic monstrosity forged from the planet's core. The Sentinel, Vin's horrified name for it, towered dozens of feet, its steel-scaled body gleaming, massive mechanical arms swinging with force enough to crush a warship. Its machine eyes blazed red, sweeping the cave like a war god roused after millennia. The crystal walls flared, reflecting the machine in countless angles, a spectacle both terrifying and awe-inspiring. On a hovering control platform, the Black Knight stood defiant, black scales glinting, golden eyes burning with arrogance. He commanded the Sentinel with precise gestures, a conductor of a symphony of destruction. Ethan and Vin retreated, scrambling behind a shattered boulder, its cracked surface still hot from earlier plasma blasts. What the hell is that? Ethan shouted, voice cutting through the machine's roar, gripping his pistol though he knew it was nothing against this beast. Vin, green eyes blazing, analyzed swiftly, its voice trembling but retaining an archivist's logic through the translator. A sentinel, the Elythar's ultimate weapon, designed to wipe out worlds. If it fully activates, Kharos will be destroyed, and our signal will never reach the Alliance. Ethan glanced at the signal core in Vin's hands, its pale blue light flickering weakly, a candle in a storm. He eyed the sentinel, its arms smashing the ground, shattering stone, dust choking the air. A reckless plan formed, insane but not impossible. Can you use the core to fry it? He asked, voice firm. Overload its systems or something? Vin hesitated, limbs freezing, as if weighing the cost of the idea. Then it nodded, eyes flaring with resolve. Possibly, but I need to reach the Sentinel's power core, a reactor in its chest. Someone has to distract the Knight. Ethan flashed a feral grin, the half-smile of a Marine staring down death. I've got that covered. You do your archivist thing. He clapped Vin's shoulder, feeling the chitin's solid shell, and sensed a strange trust forming between them. Vin nodded, its hidden blade glinting ready. They split up, Ethan charging from cover, pistol blazing at the Black Knight, each shot a defiance. "Hey, Scaleface!" he roared, voice echoing. "Humans don't go down easy!" The Black Knight snarled, directing the sentinel after him. A mechanical arm slammed down, cracking the ground, Ethan diving aside, the hot gust grazing him. Adrenaline surged, sharpening everything, the screech of metal, the crystal's glow on Elythar's scales, his own heartbeat. He zigzagged, leaping over debris, firing at the knight's platform, though his bullets only left scratches. "You're just vermin!" the knight roared through his translator, dripping contempt. Ethan laughed, breathless. "Vermin? I'm your nightmare, asshole!" Meanwhile, Vin slipped through the shadows, four legs moving like a phantom, weaving through tight gaps in the wreckage. Its blades sliced minor cables, clearing a path to the Sentinel's power core, a blazing red crystal, like a miniature sun, deep in the machine's metal chest. Every step was a gauntlet, with automated lasers firing from the Sentinel's frame, forcing Vin to dodge constantly. But as Vin reached the core, a blinding flash erupted, and a voice echoed in its mind, cold and ancient. "You seek to destroy the Elythar's legacy? Prove your worth." Suddenly, Vin was pulled into a virtual realm, its body frozen in the cave, eyes blazing like it was entranced. Before it, a luminous entity appeared, shaped like a Elythar warrior but without physical form, just swirling light with burning red eyes. "I am the gatekeeper," the voice boomed, as if from the void itself. "The signal core is my key. Dare you wield it?" Vin, trembling, stood tall, its kite and shell glinting in the virtual light. "I am an archivist," it replied, voice steady. "My duty is to protect knowledge, not let it fall to evil." The gatekeeper laughed, a sound like cracking stone. "Then face the trial." The space around Vin shifted, becoming a crystal arena where painful memories materialized. The day Elythar's homeworld burned under Elythar assault, comrades falling, and the guilt of failing to save them. Each memory was a puzzle, forcing Vin to decode to advance, each step a torment, as if its kite and heart was being torn apart. In the cave, Ethan fought desperately. The sentinel nearly crushed him, a mechanical arm slamming down, hurling him against the wall. Blood trickled from his mouth, but he crawled up, tossing an EMP grenade at the sentinel's arm joint. The blast stalled the machine, but the Black Knight only laughed. "You think you can defeat a planet human?" Ethan spat blood, eyes blazing. "I don't need to beat the planet. Just you." He glanced at Vin, seeing its frozen form, eyes glowing. "Vin! Snap out of it!" he shouted, but got no response. In the virtual realm, Vin faced the final memory, the moment it failed to save its mentor, who died protecting the signal core. "You are weak," the gatekeeper sneered. But another memory flashed, not Vin's, but Ethan's, the moment he risked everything to save a civilian ship, not for glory, but because it was right. "Humans don't give up," Vin murmured, finding strength to push through, solving the final puzzle. The gatekeeper nodded, its light fading. "You are worthy." Vin snapped back to the cave, hands trembling as it plugged the signal core into the Sentinel's power core. "Ethan, get back!" it yelled. A blinding flash exploded, the Sentinel convulsing, its systems overloading. Ethan dove, yanking Vin from danger, as the Black Knight roared in fury. The machine collapsed, its roar fading to a dying screech, but Ethan knew they weren't safe yet. Kharos held more secrets, and their fight had only just begun. In the virtual realm, Vin stood on a field of glinting crystal blades, each sharp enough to slice through steel, reflecting cold white light. Around it, ghostly shapes of fallen Elythar Archivists materialized, comrades lost in the brutal war with the Elythar. They stood silent, eyes milky white, like living statues, but Vin felt their presence, pain, sacrifice, and unspoken accusations. The air was heavy, as if the space itself crushed its kite and chest. Before Vin, a luminous entity appeared, shaped like a Elythar warrior but without substance, a writhing mass of light with burning red eyes. "You carry the signal core." Its voice boomed, ancient and cold, like an echo from a dead star's core. But do you have the will to wield it? Vin, trembling, stood tall, limbs taut, its kite and shell gleaming in the virtual glow. I am an archivist, it replied through the translator, voice firm despite the storm of emotions within. My duty is to protect knowledge, not let it fall to evil. The gatekeeper laughed, a sound like shattering rock making the crystal blades quiver. Protect knowledge? Face the truth, you failed to save your people. Why should I trust you now? The words struck like a blade to Vin's core. The space shifted, the crystal field melting into the ruins of Elythar's homeworld, crumbled archive towers, skies ablaze, and the screams of kin as Elythar warships razed everything. Vin saw itself, years ago, standing amid the wreckage, helpless as its mentor sacrificed himself to save a fragment of knowledge. Regret surged, heavy as a planet on its shoulders. But Vin gripped the signal core, its light a small flame, reminding it of its purpose. In the Kharos cave, Ethan fought with desperate fury, bodies slick with blood and sweat. The Sentinel, the Elythar's doomsday machine, moved with unstoppable force, each step shaking the ground. The Black Knight, atop his platform, laughed, his voice booming through the translator. You think you can defeat a planet human? A Sentinel arm slammed down, Ethan dodging, but the shockwave threw him against a wall. Pain seared through him, blood dripping from his mouth, but he gritted his teeth, scrambling up. I don't need to beat the planet, he growled, voice raw but defiant. Just you. He rummaged through his pack, pulling out his last EMP grenade. With a swift toss, he lobbed it at the Sentinel's arm joint, the blast stalling the machine, its red eyes flickering. But the Black Knight laughed louder, urging the Sentinel on. Ethan glanced at Vin, seeing its frozen form, green eyes blazing like it was entranced. Vin! Wake up! He shouted, but there was no response. He knew Vin was fighting its own battle, and he had to hold the line, even if it cost his life. In the virtual realm, Vin faced the gatekeeper's trials. Each memory was a puzzle, forcing it to decode ancient Elythar ciphers while past pain assaulted it. One memory struck hardest, the day Vin failed to save its mentor, who entrusted it with the signal core before dying. You are weak, the gatekeeper sneered. Vin trembled, but another memory flashed, Ethan's, the moment he risked all to save a civilian ship, driven not by reward but by principle. The image of Ethan, bloodied but unyielding, facing the Sentinel like an unquenchable flame, ignited new strength in Vin. Humans don't give up, Vin murmured, voice small but resolute. It focused, solving the final puzzle, a complex code hidden in the memory of Elythar's fall. The crystal blades hummed, as if acknowledging its effort. The gatekeeper tilted its head, its light softening. You have proven your will, it said, no longer mocking. The signal core is yours. The virtual realm dissolved, and then snapped awake in the cave, body trembling but eyes blazing with resolve. In reality, Ethan was nearing collapse. The Sentinel swung an arm, Ethan leaping aside, but flying debris tore his shoulder. Damn it! He yelled, staggering. The Black Knight laughed, voice dripping arrogance. No more running, human! But then Vin shouted. Ethan, get back! It darted to the Sentinel's power core, plugging the signal core into the blazing red crystal. A blinding flash erupted, like a star igniting, surging through the Sentinel's circuits. The machine convulsed, its metallic roar turning to a desperate screech. Its arms spasmed, then collapsed, crashing into the stone, dust choking the air. The Black Knight roared in rage, his platform sparking, but before he could react, Ethan fired his last shot, hitting the Elythar's eye. The warrior fell, scales dulling. The Sentinel stilled, its eyes dark, systems fried. Ethan stumbled, collapsing, gasping. He looked at Vin, seeing it tremble but stand firm, signal core still in hand. Nice work, Archivist, he said, voice weak but proud. Vin knelt beside him, eyes glowing with newfound respect. You gave me time, it said, voice low. Humans are extraordinary. Ethan gave a hoarse chuckle, each breath a stab of pain. Just another day. But as he looked up, seeing the crystals still flickering, he knew, Kharos wasn't done with them. The Sentinel might be down, but the planet's secrets lingered, and their war was far from over. The dust in the Kharos cave settled slowly, leaving a heavy silence, as if the planet itself held its breath. The Sentinel's wreckage lay scattered across the floor, twisted metal shards glinting under the crystal light, like the corpse of a fallen beast. The Black Knight lay motionless amid the rubble, his black scales dulled, golden eyes now empty voids. Ethan Caldwell, panting, pulled Vin from the danger zone, his trembling hands still gripping its chitin arm. "Nice work, Archivist," he said, voice hoarse, a weary grin cracking his lips. He clapped Vin's shoulder, feeling the solid shell, and in that moment, he felt a bond, a camaraderie forged in fire and blood. But Ethan's grin faded as a low hum echoed from the sky outside. He snapped his head up, peering through a crack in the cave's ceiling, spotting red lights blinking against the violet dusk. Elythar ships, at least 5, their sleek black hulls glinting like reptilian scales. "We're not done yet," Ben whispered, its limbs retracting, clutching the signal core. Its faint blue glow flickered, a candle against the coming storm. Ethan tightened his grip on his pistol, though its magazine was nearly spent. "Elythar don't quit, do they?" he muttered, eyes cold. He was ready to face them, but a sudden twist stopped him cold. A voice crackled through Vin's translator, not its own, but deeper, colder, laced with authority. "Vin, you've activated the core. Now hand it over." Ethan spun, pistol snapping to the shadows. From a side passage, an Elythar emerged, taller than Vin, its chitin shell polished like steel, green eyes blazing with a chilling ambition. "Kale," Vin whispered, voice trembling, as if the name were a knife to its heart. Ethan's jaw tightened, finger tense on the trigger. "Who the hell are you, and why were you stabbing your own kind in the back?" Kale tilted its head, a faint smirk on its chitin face. "My kind?" Vin is too weak, swayed by emotion. "You did well, Vin, but this knowledge isn't for the feeble alliance. It belongs to the Elythar." It raised a hand, an energy blade flaring to life, its pale blue light illuminating the cave. Vin stepped back, eyes wide with horror. "Kale, you're working with them?" it asked, voice thick with pain and disbelief. Kale nodded, unhesitating. "The Elythar are tools. I'll use the core to rebuild the Elythar Empire, stronger than ever. The Alliance, Earth, all will kneel." Ethan felt rage surge, hot as plasma. He stepped forward, pistol locked on Kale, eyes unwavering. "You think you can sell out your people and walk away? Big mistake, you smug insect." But before he could act, the Elythar ship's engines roared closer. They landed outside, dust swirling, and dozens of reptilian warriors poured in, scales glinting, plasma rifles blazing. They encircled Ethan and Vin, a ring of death. Kale laughed, its limbs quivering with glee. "See, human? This is power. Hand over the core or die." Vin retreated, clutching the core tighter, but its eyes burned with deep hurt. "I trusted you, Kale," it said, voice small but resolute. "We swore to protect knowledge, not exploit it." Kale shrugged, energy blade flashing. "Knowledge is power, Vin. You're too naive to see it." Ethan glanced at Vin, seeing its pain, but also a spark, a resolve igniting. He placed a hand on its shoulder, voice low but firm. "You're not alone, Archivist. We'll get through this. Together." He turned, facing Kale and the Elythar, his half-grin returning. "You want the core? Fine. But first, let's see if you can get past an Earth Marine." He raised his pistol, knowing his rounds were few, but the HFY spirit in him never faltered. The Kharos cave was now an arena, with Ethan and Vin standing on the edge of betrayal and loyalty. The Elythar advanced, and Ethan knew this would be their toughest fight yet. The Kharos cave erupted into chaos, plasma and crystal light clashing in blinding bursts. The Elythar squad, black scales gleaming, advanced with lethal precision, plasma rifles hissing, firing searing energy bolts. Ethan and Vin were pinned against a massive crystal, but Ethan's human spirit refused to break. He glanced at Vin, seeing it clutch the signal core, green eyes blazing despite the sting of Kale's betrayal. Vin, got any tricks left? He asked, voice low, eyes fixed on Kale, who stood behind the Elythar, energy blade glowing. Vin nodded, though its limbs trembled. The core can emit a disruptive pulse, it said through the translator, voice steady. It'll disable the Elythar ship's systems, maybe their weapons too. But I need time to link it to a console. Ethan laughed, a bold sound that drowned out the plasma's screech. Time? I'll give you a damn warehouse of it. He leapt from cover, pistol blazing, each shot aimed at Elythar eyes or knee joints, where their scales were thinnest. Come on, you lizards! Catch me if you can! The Elythar roared, charging like a pack of predators. Ethan darted, dodging plasma bolts that scorched the walls, each move a dance with death. He rolled behind a chunk of debris, feeling heat graze his shoulder, tearing his uniform. Blood seeped from his old side wound, but adrenaline numbed the pain. A Elythar lunged, plasma sword swinging, Ethan ducking low, slamming a fist into its knee, toppling it. He snatched its rifle, unloading a barrage into the crowd, carving a fleeting gap. What, you guys move like turtles? He shouted, voice tinged with a marine's madness. Meanwhile, Vin sprinted to a Elythar console near the Sentinel's wreckage, limbs blurring with speed. It plugged in the signal core, hands shaking but relentless, eyes locked on the codes scrolling across the screen. Kale, sensing Vin's plan, advanced, energy blade flaring. You can't win, Vin! He snarled, voice dripping contempt. The Elythar must rule, and I'll lead them. Vin looked up, its eyes no longer pained but fierce, inspired by Ethan's defiance. No, Kale, it said, voice hard. Knowledge is for sharing, not domination. Kale swung his blade, but Vin reacted fast, its hidden blade flashing, parrying in a shower of sparks. The two archivists clashed, Vin smaller but agile, weaving through Kale's strikes with a warrior's grace. You betrayed everything we believed in! Vin shouted, landing a slash on Kale's shoulder, green blood spraying. Kale staggered but laughed coldly, unfazed. I did what was necessary. Ethan, seeing Vin pressed, charged, firing the plasma rifle at Kale, forcing him to dodge. But another Elythar struck from behind, its sword grazing Ethan's back, sending him sprawling, blood soaking his uniform. He gritted his teeth, rolling, shooting the Elythar's leg, toppling it. Vin, hurry! He yelled, voice raw. Vin nodded, hands still working the console, codes nearing completion. A green flash erupted from the core, and a silent, powerful pulse surged. The Elythar ships in the sky shuddered, engines stalling, crashing into cliffs and fiery explosions. The warriors' rifles in the cave sparked and died, reduced to scrap. Ethan, bloodied and battered, staggered up, charging Kale, landing a brutal punch to his chitin face. Kale fell, and then swiftly bound him with console cables. It's over, Kale, Vin said, voice low but certain. At that moment, a new light swept the cave, searchlights from an Alliance rescue ship, Earth's Ark logo gleaming on its hull. We did it! Ethan gasped, collapsing, body spent. Vin knelt beside him, eyes glowing with deep respect. You taught me humans don't just fight for themselves, it said, voice warm. Thank you, Ethan Caldwell. Ethan gave a weak grin, each breath a stab of pain. No big deal, Archivist. Just another day. Aboard the Alliance rescue ship, the air smelled of antiseptic and metal, a stark contrast to Kharos' chaos. Ethan Caldwell lay on a medical bunk, body carefully bandaged, wounds from the cave now dull aches. He felt the ship's gentle hum, a soothing sound, almost lulling, after hours of relentless combat. Through the viewport beside him, stars glittered like gems on black velvet, a sight he never tired of. He managed a faint smile, though each movement stung. Still kicking, he muttered, voice rough. Not bad for a day's work. Ben sat beside him, its chitin shell glinting under the medbay's soft light. The signal core was now with the Alliance, handed to engineers the moment the rescue ship landed. The signal was sent, Ben said, voice low through the translator, tinged with rare relief. The Alliance received the data on the Elythar's plot. They'll be investigated, and Kharos' weapons cache will be destroyed. Ethan raised an eyebrow, a spark of humor in his eyes. Good. So, what's next, Archivist? Retire and write a book about our little adventure? Vin tilted its head, a gesture Ethan now knew well, as if pondering his words. I think. It paused, green eyes glowing with newfound warmth. I'll stay with the Alliance, learn from humans. You've changed how I see the galaxy, Ethan Caldwell. Ethan gave a hoarse chuckle, wincing at the pain. Come on, I'm just a reckless flyboy. You're the one who brought a planet to its knees. Vin quivered its limbs, what Ethan guessed was an Elythar smile. We did it together. It said, voice sincere. He looked at Vin, seeing the change in it. The cold, logical archivist now carried something human. Resilience, trust, even a touch of stubbornness, qualities Ethan had brought to their fight on Kharos. You know, he said, voice low. We humans might be the new kids in the galaxy, but we don't mind shaking things up. Looks like you're catching that bug too. Vin didn't reply immediately, but its eyes spoke volumes, a deep empathy. A bond transcending species. The rescue ship approached Alliance space, lights from orbital stations twinkling in the distance, like beacons in the void. Ethan gazed through the viewport, spotting a bright star cluster, a surge of pride swelling within. Humans might be small in the vast universe, but with grit and an ally like Vin, they'd proven Earth didn't just survive, it shone. He thought of Kharos, the Sentinel, Kale, and the Black Knight. Those trials, those brushes with death, had forged something greater, a message that humans, however frail, always found a way to rise. Ever think you'd die on Kharos? Vin asked, voice curious. Ethan shrugged, though it made him wince. Every day's a close call, Archivist. But I don't go down easy. He met Vin's gaze, serious now. You. After all this, you scared? Vin paused, limbs still. I was afraid. It admitted, voice soft. But you showed me fear's no reason to stop. Ethan nodded, a deep respect stirring. That's the human spirit, Vin. Welcome to the team. As the ship neared the Alliance's main station, Ethan felt a rare peace. His and Vin's story on Kharos was just the beginning, but their message, of courage, unity, and the power of knowledge, would echo forever among the stars. He closed his eyes, letting the universe's light fill his mind, knowing that whatever the future held, he and Vin would face it head on.